Hello and welcome to another Imperator Rome development diary. And today, just like last week and the week before, I am a very happy camper because there is nothing to complain about. What we've got today is a smattering of new updates and features that we've been shown from a variety of different things. Some are combat, some are trade, some are this, some are that. All across the spectrum of Imperator Rome. Just little improvements here and there. And none of them are unwelcome. All of them are improvements. So let's just get into it because I want to share this with you because I'm excited and I like sharing excitement about things. It can be quite nice. So, here we go. Hello and welcome to another development diary for Imperator Rome. Today I'll be talking to you about some of the changes that are coming in the Marius update. Still early days, so take any and all numbers and screenshots as what they are, a work in progress. Absolutely fine, yes. So, firstly, combat width, something that we definitely were hinted at having changed with the naval kind of image that they showed before where there was a little 50 on the naval battle. We could see that the combat width was much bigger than the 30 that it currently is. So yes, combat width is being changed. In Imperator Rome, combat width is what determines the size of a battlefield. Units designated as primary rank are deployed in the center, with units designated as second rank taking their place once they retreat from the battle. Units designated as flankers are deployed on the sides. If unopposed to their direct front, units will target enemies diagonally as far away as their maneuver rating will allow. This means your flankers can start attacking the center of the enemy line if they can first defeat their counterparts on the enemy flank. It also means you will have little use of your flankers until late in the battle if the enemy line is completely filled. I mean, if the enemy line is completely filled, would these guys not start harassing the sides? Would they not be attacking the enemy flankers? That kind of thing? I mean, I'm not sure I completely agree with this, and I don't think anything has changed here. I just don't agree with the wording of it. But we do now have a new unit interface, which I very much like. It shows like sort of the array of a pitched battle where your units would line themselves up, and it's really quite nice. I do hope it's not like that right now, but I do hope that this screen here is going to be changed to show this kind of formation kind of style, because this looks freaking cool. This looks really good. This decidedly less so. So I do hope that we get something like this in here. But one thing, before we move on, something that they don't even mention is the size of units is changing. They're straight up changing. Every single one of these units that we see in this dev diary, because this is not the only one, has every unit be 500 men. Or donkeys or horses, whatever. 500 is now the standard unit size. So, we've got 18 units here, or I guess cohorts, and that's 9,000 men because each one of these is 500. Same for the heavy cav, same for the light cav, same for the donkeys. Yeah, that's really good because that is a lot closer to the historical size of a cohort, which, while not being exactly 500 men, was certainly not 1,000. It was certainly a lot smaller, and I'm trying to look it up while I am talking, but a cohort was actually exactly 500 men. Fuck, never mind. I take it all back. 10 cohorts was 5,000 men. I guess there was probably a little bit of I don't know. I always thought it was about 300. I guess maybe I was wrong. Anyway, it's now more historical to, Roman sizes, I guess. It makes sense. Although I'm sure it was probably a little bit variable. Because there's different types of cohorts. Apparently, according to this page that I've got open on my other screen, a cohors Ilaria was an allied or auxiliary unit. I don't know what size that was, it could be fucking anything. A cohors quinquagenaria is 500 men, nominally. A cohors Miliaria was auxiliary and nominally 1,000 men strong. Etc, etc. Basically, this is cool. I like this. This is a good change. I think it is closer to, historically accurate in terms of, unit sizes. It feels a bit less arbitrary. It's 1,000 because it's always been 1,000 in all of our other games. It's getting a bit boring. Having these be, very defined 500 men, it's a bit different, isn't it? And I like it. I like it. It means that armies aren't going to be freaking colossally huge and stupid in size. It also throws out all of my own previous calculations for how large one pop is. Because previously, the way I calculated the size of a pop, which I know a lot of people have different measurements for this, is based on the amount of men in a cohort when you migrate a pop. If you migrate 10 pops in as a migratory tribe, you get 10,000 light infantry. So I took this to mean, right, there is about 1,000 fighting age men for every one pop. Fighting age men making up perhaps a third of the population, meaning that you would have roughly 3,000, maybe 4,000 people per pop. If that's changed, if one pop is now raised up to be 500 men, that throws all of the calculations that I've had for a while completely out of whack. Because one pop sure shit is not 500 men. So, yeah, no, it's certainly interesting. It's very much certainly interesting. But yeah, let's move on and let's have a look at the battle screen. Nice that you can see, obviously, your army's commanders. Again, we can see that each of these has 500 as their base unit amount. You can see there is a combat width signifier here. As it's the marshes, it's down to only 18 wide, which is still fairly wide, and certainly in the early game you're not going to really be seeing this large. I mean, it's Phrygia versus Egypt at this point, and still pretty small. Also, the symbol for the mercenaries has changed somewhat. The color is slightly different. I believe it was yellow on a black background before. So yeah, just a few changes here to the screen. I don't like this, and I do hope that changes. But other than that, yeah, no, it's looking good. It's looking good. In the Marius update, combat width is no longer the same on every battlefield. Instead, it's now dependent on what terrain you're fighting on, and this can vary quite a bit. From extreme cases such as mountainous terrain where the battlefield is only 16 positions wide, to sea battles in the open where the width is now 50. This allows us to better represent a dramatic variation of combat scenarios and potentially opens up opportunities for ambushes, pitched warfare, and more. Choosing the place you give battle becomes as important as which subunits are present. So 18 in the marshes, 16 in the mountains. I would honestly drop this down even further. If you're trying to hold a mountain pass, like, you should be able to, as a very small army, very much hold off a large one. I think the Battle of Thermopylae, for example. While they didn't, win that battle, the Spartans certainly held off for a quite long time. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good to have, combat width be affected by terrain. I remember EU4 used to have combat width be affected by terrain, and then they dropped that for standard combat width across the board, which, I'm just going to come out and say it, fucking shit change, absolute garbage change, was not to the benefit of literally anyone ever. So, it's good to see, Imperator going in the opposite direction, embracing a good change instead of embracing a terrible one. Anyway, let's move on. This is the naval combat screen. Again, this little screen in the middle just shows the issues I have with it. We've got some boats here that are just floating nicely on the sea, and they're being attacked by the Flying Dutchman. What's that coming over the hill? Oh, it's a boat? Oh, okay, sure. Additionally, there will be some locations where the width is further modified. For example, mountain passes like the famous gates where many historical battles took place. Such locations are now marked with a 2D icon on the map itself. Such passes have been added to a number of locations all around the world. So they've got the Armanian gates here. I don't know where that is. It's not. That's not the Cilician gates, is it? What are we looking at here? What Marash and Tiba. Oh, it must be the Cilician gates. Although we've got a little bit of a map change here, don't we? Or do we? There is now a gate between Irana and Marash. And this is being changed to the name. So this is now a pass. This is the, Pili Amanikai. This is going to be a pass as well. And I would assume that Pili Sidious is also going to be a pass as well. We'll probably end up getting one down here in Nicaean Lochri. Something like here, where not Cilician gates, what are they called? The hot gates in Thermopylae. I would imagine we're going to get some there. As for some other potential ones, I would imagine the Sophon Pass will be one. I would imagine quite a lot of the Alps will be, there'll be a lot of passes here, I imagine. There's some really good ones in Armenia, so the Beileles Pass. We've got Zamira or Tordon, one of these could be passes. Like, I'm assuming that, a liberal use of these gates will be, just for the benefit. It'll just be, just solid good. But yeah, I'm liking that. It's good stuff. So this territory is an important mountain pass, a gate, through which all armies must pass that want to reach the region beyond the mountain range. This severely limits the maneuverability of the location. Mountain passes are also notoriously hard to find shelter in, and any army that spends any longer time will be subjugated to the forces of the elements. So -4 combat width, that would make these mountain passes be 12 combat width. I mean, if you want to hold a large army and you only have 12 cohorts, I mean, that's going to be, pretty good for you, fighting on one of these passes. But yeah, that's good shit. It's good shit. Attrition, unless they change the system of supply trains, then this is really not going to affect all that much. Though if you have to siege a fortress, you're going to be going through your food just a little bit faster. It could be useful. It could be useful. Attrition right now is something that definitely needs to be looked at in the game. Alright, moving on. What this means is that it becomes less viable to trust that one army composition is as useful for all types of campaigns. In largely forested or hilly areas, your ability to flank will be much more limited. I will be honest, I don't generally consider flanking right now in the game, because I mean, I guess it's purely because of the combat width, right? The combat width in Imperator, right now, as it stands, is 30. So generally, my armies tend to be 30 heavy infantry strong. Then I generally put some cav in there to help flank when the heavy infantry gets damaged. Or rather, just to push some of the heavy infantry into the second line so that they'll replace the front lines. But I don't know. It's going to take some getting used to. It's going to take some playing with before I'm really, knowing if this is, a good change. Well, I mean, I feel like it is a good change, but it's going to take a while for me to, understand how it's going to affect my play. It's going to be interesting, though, for sure. It's definitely a good change, it's just one that I'm going to have to get used to. At sea, on the other hand, this increases the danger of leaving your heavier ships unattended even further. The new system allows the potential number of enemy ships that can target a single isolated big vessel to be much higher. To be honest, though, who leaves their big vessels, isolated? I don't think this happens. Sure, in this hypothetical scenario, they would be more vulnerable, but this hypothetical just doesn't happen, so I don't know. Anyway, moving on to forts. In the released version of the game, when you have broken through a fortified area, you currently have to spread out your troops to take control over the unfortified parts of the provinces you pass through. This is a process that can be both attention-intensive and not particularly rewarding or realistic. For the Marius update, we've been looking at ways to alleviate this, removing reasons to break up your armies into many small pieces and rewarding concentration of power a bit more. Some of these changes will be described below. They don't like carpet sieging, and I would say that's good that you don't like it, because it's not likable. It's shit. It's awful, and I hate carpet sieging. But now we're not going to have to do this! The death of carpet sieging is nigh. Look at this lovely shit. In the new update, occupation of all territories in a province will begin to progress as soon as you control all forts in that province. This means that when you are done taking control of the military installations of a province, your armies can move on and not split up to occupy all the territories in turn. In provinces that do not have any forts, it will be enough to occupy the province capital to trigger this behavior. Occupying the local capitals was already a good idea since it gives your armies access to the provincial food storage, but this change further increases the importance of going after these important locations. This is all just solid good shit. It's been something that people have asked for quite some time. People have said, look, if I've sieged all of the forts in a province, why doesn't it all just auto-occupy? Well, now it fucking does, and that's just great. Yes, I like that a lot. It has the knock-on effect of reducing the need for carpet sieging behavior and makes large-scale warfare significantly less tedious, which is just, again, good shit. And again, we see some mercenaries here with 3,500, which means they've got 7 cohorts. Love it. Fantastic shit. Alright, moving on to provinces fort limit. So, another change, partly because of the new importance of forts and partly because how easy it has been to tie down invaders by building a great number of small forts, is the provincial fort limit. This limit represents the degree to which the provincial infrastructure can support great fortifications and can be increased using a provincial investment. The starting limit for any province will be 5, and each new fort in a territory will make use of 3 fort infrastructure levels. Additional levels to existing forts only contribute 1 fort infrastructure level to the fort limit, encouraging building forts in important and influential places rather than in every territory. The fort limit is not a hard limitation, and you can still build more fort levels than your province infrastructure can support, but fort levels beyond the limit will sharply increase the maintenance you pay for them. There may well be additional sources of this limit to account for historically well-defended locations. This is okay, right? This is just okay. It does mean that unless you have one of these, extra points, then you're going to be paying more for your forts. Because if you want 2 forts in a province, that's going to be over your fort limit, and that's before you, upgrade them at all. So it's a little bit odd. I'm still not sold on the idea of forts, especially in cities. I feel like city walls would be a better representation of, accurate history. Having walls around a city instead of a fortress it just feels better in my opinion. And when it's being a soft limit, is it really a limit at all? For the powerful nations with a large amount of wealth, they kind of don't give too much of a shit about these soft limits. They'll just pay over it. So it's gonna be interesting for sure. If they'd have made it a hard limit, or this soft limit was, maybe a medium soft, a medium hard, just a medium limit, then I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on this, because it doesn't feel very historically based. It's more of a game thing, and generally when things are made for gameplay purposes, they're not as satisfying. I feel like this is just not satisfying, but it might work out to the benefit of the game, so we'll see. Alright, moving on to engineer cohorts. Fort warfare will also be affected by the introduction of a new engineer unit type. This unit represents troops specialized in sieges and the construction of military facilities, siege towers, roads, temporary bridges, etc. It presents us with an army laying... if present with an army laying siege to a fort, engineers will add +1 to every siege roll, divided by the fort level +1. Engineers will add +1 to every siege roll, divided by the fort level. Can I just build like 20 engineers? If the fort level is 2, then it's going to divide their bonus by 2. Engineers will add Alright, if I have 1 engineer in an army, he'll add +1 to the siege roll, divided by the fort level of 1. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. Okay, so that makes sense. If it's if the fort level is 2, the engineers will... You'd need more engineers. You'd need equal amount of engineers to fort levels to keep the +1. Doubling it will give you a +2. Right? So if I have 2 engineers with a level 1 fort, I get 2, because level 1 fort, it's only, divided by 1. If I have a level 2 fort and say 4 engineers, then it'll be a +2 bonus. Yeah, that's interesting. It makes level 1 forts kind of... not useless, of course not useless, but it definitely increases the importance of upgrading your forts, for sure. I like it, though. I like it. It's good. Engineers are also able to negate the crossing penalties that armies get for attacking across rivers or straits. Wow. Okay, then that's big. As long as they're present in high enough numbers, 1 cohort for every 10 units fighting on your side in a battle. For this reason, an icon indication has also been added to show whether you will get a crossing penalty or not from a movement order. So basically, you augment your armies to have, 1 engineer for every 10 units, just as standard. Engineers are proficient in road building will greatly reduce the cost to build new roads if they're present in an army ordered to construct roads. 10 engineers building roads, lowering the cost by like 90% maybe. That would be cool. I like it. The new unit type has an unusually high cost both to recruit and maintain. It is also restricted in some ways that will expand on later in later diaries. Lovely. Engineer, I like it. It's a good change. So, provincial trading. This is the juice. This is the coup de grace. This is the Italian kiss of the fingers. Yeah, this is so good. One other new feature coming to the Marius update is the ability to assign control over trade to your governors. Thank fuck. Thank all of the fuck. Because that is something that we've needed for a very, very, very long time. Having, especially with the new update where provinces generally have a lot more trade routes than they previously had, unless they're on the coast, of course. You ended up with a lot of potential, trade to do. But the thing is, you go to war with somebody, you've just lost all your trade routes, or you unpause and, maybe the person you're trading heavily with has a civil war. Oh, you need to redo all your trade. It's kind of tedious, it's really not that fun, and generally you just don't give a shit about what you're importing. No longer, we're now able to get the governors to do it for us. Maybe it's a little bit less efficient than if you were being anally micromanagey on everything, which you shouldn't be because that's a terrible way to play any game. This is just, so good, so good, so good. It's done on a provincial level, meaning you can decide to have some provinces under your control and then some over the governor. Fucking good. So good. The governors will try to get profitable routes set up while also securing access to food for their territories, but will expect to have total control over what is theirs. This needs expanding upon. I need to know more. Need to know more intensifies. Come on, give me more information. I don't know. And finally, we have the Atlas map mode, which is interesting. My last point today is to show the new map mode that we're adding together with the interface rework in Marius. It aims at showing information at a glance in a way that could be useful for after-action report screenshots, or if you just want to admire your world in a way reminiscent of the historical atlases that most of us enjoy. That was all for this week. Next week we'll be back with more about the new features of the Marius update. Lovely. I will be there. So yeah, this is the Atlas map mode, and it's also what we were teased on in the previous dev diary. So, this map mode is provided as a flavorful, you spelled flavor wrong, way of displaying your national situation is inspired by the appearance of historical atlases. As your important cities and locations grow, they will take on a more prominent appearance. So, these could be roads. It could also be like army paths, maybe? I don't know. But obviously we're playing as the Antigonids. We don't own Egypt in this screenshot. We're currently fighting with Egypt in Egypt. So the road being all the way down here, I mean, it is a road, right? It's got to be a road. Let's just take a look here. Yes, yeah, it's a road, look. So if there is a road going all the way down here, and then when it curves in, after the Temple of Melkart, going here, then to Damascus. Then to Damascus. Is there a temple in one of these? Probably. Can't tell from the screen. I'd have to actually go in. But yeah, that's it. Right, we've figured it out then. 100% these dotted lines are roads. Okay. It'll also show you your important cities that grow bigger over time, which is, I think, pretty damn cool. I'm in favor of that for sure. Yeah, this is a really interesting map mode. It's not really gameplay based, but it is certainly, you know, it's flavor. It's lovely flavor. I like it quite a lot. I think it'll be a really nice way of taking screenshots in the future. I'd love to know if it looks different when you zoom out a bit more. Obviously, you'll probably lose the names of the territories, which I think would be good. If it keeps the different city names, then that would be really nice. I like it a lot. That's really, really cool. That's really, really cool. Very nice. Yeah, no, that's I'm in favor. I'm definitely in favor. That is beautiful. Let's just see if there are any dev responses that we can respond to. Nope, not yet. But yeah, this is the dev diary, and I would love to know your guys' opinion and thoughts on all that I've just gone over. My own thoughts are there is nothing here to complain about. There's only good shit here, and I'm very much looking forward to getting my hands on this and playing around with it. All of this is just good shit. There's some things that I just need to play with a bit, I think. Like the fort limit is a bit I don't know yet, but you know, I'm sure that it's for the best, I think. I'm liking it. I'm very much liking it. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know down in the comment section below. What is your favorite part of this dev diary? Let me know what you would like to see next week, because we're gonna have more new features. It's good. It's really good. Imperator is improving in a way that I am very much in favor of. Very, very much. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you'd like to support me, likes and the aforementioned comments for the algorithm are much appreciated. I also have a Patreon page. There is a link to that in the description below, as well as a link to this dev diary if you would like to read it yourself. Thank you all very much for watching. Until next week, bye-bye.